How's it going, everybody? In my last video, we talked about building awareness around ourselves. And in that video, bringing into our conscious mind our actions, behaviors, and our motives, and having a little bit of self-compassion for yourself because I hope you learned how to laugh with your raw ass self by now because you're going to want it going forward. And in this next segment, we learn the groundwork about winning the devil itself. So everybody, kick off your shoes because tonight we learn how to dance. Okay, everybody, I'd like to start this lesson off by saying that all the papers that you see and the layouts and the designs are originals of my own. Please do not copy my evaluation sheets without permission. Okay, let's get into the lesson. All right, so this is back when I was, I don't know how old I was, 11, 12 years old. My best friend just moved away. There was still 6 months left in the year. I was left feeling, where do I belong? Home, mentally made an adult decision that I didn't want to be there anymore. I was argumentative. I was short fused. To my father's presence in general. It was my father would trigger me. I had enough putting up with his behavior, although my mom hadn't, that I was done. So my trust was broken, my stability was gone, and my security was not there either. So in my mind, when I was at school, I was anywhere but at school. I had false scenarios that I would tell myself in my head just to feel like I belong there because I didn't have any friends. And then I would hyper focus on the negative because I felt negative at home, I felt negative at school. So the needs evaluation is going to be a series of questions, and you have your main points of environments. So you're going to have your home, your friends, and your school. These are the most influential people in your life around 11, 12 years old. This is myself and others, myself and myself. So openness to ideas. Fire, lustful energy. So this is like excited and passionate. How did I receive support? Did I know my potential? Value placed on myself. Was I in tune with my instincts? Did I forget myself every now and again? So I feel. How did I feel? Did I have basic trust? How did I bounce back on my feet after a depressing situation? Did I and do I feel blessed, and am I grateful? So I put a L here for limbo because at this point in my life, I didn't even know what grateful meant or blessed. Like it was beyond me. So limbo, I felt it, but I didn't know how to pinpoint it. Were both feet planted on the ground? So check for yes and X for no. You'll get your ratios here just to see where you're at if you're more on the scale of bad. Going down, I asked myself a few questions. So what dream was I indulged in? That I had enough authority in my life to make the decision as an 11, 12-year-old to stop putting up with my dad's behavior. My mom clearly wasn't going to do it. I did it with vengeance. I dreamed of creating stability, security, and feeling loved in my home. Can I linger, be, and let be? I was let be, feeling, where do I belong? Wondering what a home would feel like. School, I had no friends and then justifying my own existence, creating narratives in my head to create a sense of belonging at school, which is so wrong. Okay, was I overestimating myself and dreaming unrealistically? I was overestimating my ability and skill level to create the change I wanted when I was 11 and 12 years old. I was angry. My anger took over and I wasn't able to. Okay. So on the second page here, sorry if it's a little messy, I will read it out for you guys though. So we have demeanor, parent versus demeanor child. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of a little mind map here. Bring you guys up closer. Okay. So trigger, my dad. This is the self-awareness that I talked about in the last video. Dad walking around as soon as he would wake up, swearing and slamming the cabinets. This would trigger me, and I would become defensive as a coping mechanism, and my behavior would be defiant. So behaviors and habits that came out of this routinely over the years of my life, from the time that I was as little as I can remember. By the time that I was 11 and 12, I was not getting out of bed to go to school on time. I was becoming like this myself. I was sleeping in, losing motivation, and I was letting others into my life that behaved exactly how my father had. Okay? Now, so my mom, this is how I would wake up. I would stay in my room. My mom, she would drop my dad off at work, and then she would come back and she would wake me and my brother up again. She was doing the best that she could because she knew how horrible my dad was. Me as a child, how I'm taking this from my mom though, is I'm now responding to my mother in an aggravated, skeptical, revolted, and resentful nature because she knows how I feel and does nothing about it. And second of all, now this bitch has got me fucked up because I'm sitting there wondering how she doesn't feel that way. So, parents, lost credibility by not showing humility in the ways they were communicating to us what was going on. They acted like we were crazy for having an opinion about the relationship. I didn't trust them. How can you trust something that, how can I trust something who treats me like I'm oblivious? The smallest amount of understanding would have brought peace to the chaos that I felt inside of me at that time, the distress that I was going through. A little bit, actually, way before this, I also got to experience how my dad would weaponize this with me because when my mom and him would break up and she would leave, he needed someone to vent to. So in that moment, he would pour his heart out and bring understanding and be like, I'm such a bad dad. I'm such a bad dad. I remember sitting there and being like, in my head thinking, yeah, you kind of are. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, you are. But I'm like, oh, no, dad. No, you're not. You're great. Like, it just got old very, very quick. Okay. So, this is my theory. I'm not sure. I can't say that I have proven this, but I will say that I have a theory. Okay. So, demeanor leading up to the pivot point. First thing I want you to ask yourself, okay, you can have, like, me and Jacob, my brother, we listened so well. We didn't show a lot of signs leading up to the pivot point where we lost it, okay? So just because your kid isn't showing you signs of distress does not mean that they are not in distress. How well does your child hold composure? And yes, this can start happening from a very, very young age. Second of all, there is a difference between setting milestones and expectations. I was reading on a few different blogs. If my parents were to use half of those things with me and my brother, they would have been cops would have been called a hell of a lot more than they were. Yes, and I do believe this. Yes, parents should have to go through a mandatory emotional regulation standard prior to their child leaving any therapy. And this mandatory regulation should include frustration, criticism, irritation, resulting in resentment. Should be a priority for a parent who should be priority for a parent prior to their child leaving any therapy, because you see, if you get the child to a good point mentally, but that parent is still at the same point, why the heck did you spend all that money? Because that parent is going to throw that child right back to where they were. So what was the point of it? What was the point? The parents need to be met at a standard prior to. This is called a negative feedback loop. Okay, so we get the child to a good point, they go back home, and all of a sudden their parent fucks all their shit up again. And now, not only are they back at where they started, now they're angry. Now they're resentful. Now they have vengeance. And they don't want to participate in healing because they think it's worth nothing anyway. That is a negative feedback loop that is keeping someone in continuously needing care. Okay? So going down to my theory here, I have a little bit bigger of an image for you guys to see. I have dad, mom, child, mom, dad. Okay? So you gotta tag team this bitch, okay? I'm telling you right now, to outwit this devil, it is a dance. I'm tag team support at the top, which means mom and dad have constant communication. If you're a mom, then it's gonna be you're double timing it. Or if you're a single dad, you're double timing it. Okay? So in the middle of this triangle, the meeting points here, you're gonna have clarity on triggers throughout everybody, and everyone is gonna hold each other accountable. Okay? The reason why it comes down and goes into this shape here is because right here, as we work through the accountability, things are gonna they're gonna start going good, but then you're gonna hit a point where old habits die hard, okay? So right here is what I like to call the isolation, address, and resolve. This here, and it gets wider here because it trickles all this bullshit down into like a smaller amount of bullshit. And then the bullshit's gonna wanna expand and explode. You gotta have integrity. You gotta be clear on your goals between the mom and between both parties here for this to work. Because if one of you are slipping, that child is gonna slip right through without the healing happening. So this is just from my observation from my life. I do feel more, I can't tell you that this is exactly how it's going to work. It's just a theory for now. Anyway, that sums up my my review on the different dynamics of how like trigger points and what is required from both parents to switch through dynamics. On my next video, I am going to be talking more about express concerns with your child and judging the mentality that they are at. I'm going to create a way to evaluate mentality and a way to evaluate a child's composure. On the next one, you guys. Until then, much love.